Let's go to line number 3. Say good morning to the PC member for the Isles of Notre Dame and the Minister of Natural Resources, Derrik Dalley. Good morning, Minister Dalley. You're on the air.
Good morning, Paddy.
How are you this morning, sir?
Good, sir. Congratulations to you. Moving to the morning slot.
Thank you very much.
See if you're a morning person now, I guess, will we?
Well, we're going to find out.
Great, Paddy. Paddy, I want to touch base with you today. We've had a great announcement come through last week, and the clearance of the Cami project in Labrador cleared the environmental assessment, the provincial portion, which is good news, obviously, for the company, but I think good news for the province and obviously the people, particularly in Labrador West.
Well, no question, but then the immediate conversation turns to the transmission and the issues that Alderaan has been bringing forward. Do we have a price tag on what it would cost to build transmission capacity over to the Cami Ore project?
Not an exact estimate. We're suspecting somewhere around $300 million, but I guess give or take, and that's the early work that's been done, Paddy, but it's... we've talked about some time, I guess, that, the development of Muskrat Falls, but even beyond that the potential in Labrador is tremendous. And, it's good for the province, it's good for the Labrador West region in particular. When we look at, potential of some $10 billion in projects on the horizon in Labrador, if everything worked out well. But right now there is the Alderaan project that's ready to go. And their need for power. I mean, there's 2 lines going in from Churchill Falls right now, and they're full capacity, so the issues of more power and redundancy, reliability issues and so on is what's being discussed right now. We've received tremendous support to go ahead to build this line, in terms of immediate and do it right away. We've had letters of support from the unions, the Chambers of Commerce, the Leader of the Opposition's been out wanting to get it done. The federal MP has been out. We've had letters of support from the town of Labrador City and the town of Walbush. And, in particular, I guess the mayor of Walbush has been very clear his concern about any risk of losing the project when you consider, commodity prices and the challenges to get investment right now in mining and so on, that he's been clear that, he doesn't want to risk losing these projects, and whatever government needs to do, whether it's, go ahead and make the decision to build this line and provide the oversight and the impact on rates over to the PUB after you move forward with building the line. So he's been clear, but all of that information obviously we consider, and but again, it's a great opportunity and certainly great excitement, I think, for particularly in Lab West.
What would be the timing of a decision? Because, of course, as Alderaan has made very clear, the capital is in place, but it won't stay there forever. We all know on the global scene it's harder and harder to come up with investment, in particular in the mining operations, because of the vast number who are applying or putting forward their hope for capital. So what's the timing for making a decision on behalf of government whether or not we will pay for the transmission?
Well, and again, in terms of us paying for the transmission, I think, to be clear, as we've seen in all of our developments, I guess, in the province with respect to electrical developments and so on, it comes back to the ratepayer. So it wouldn't be the taxpayer or the government paying. The ratepayer would end up paying for any developments. And in this case, the ratepayers would be, whether it's the residential or commercial or industrial, and certainly the industrial piece is what's driving it at this time. But there are challenges in Labrador West as well around reliability and the challenges for power with brownouts occurring from time to time. So that whole issue, I guess, as to who pays is something obviously we're considering that this would be a role for the Public Utilities Board. And they generally do play that role. There's been a number of times in our history, I guess, with our government and previous governments where the PUB has been totally exempted from developments like Granite Canal and coal generation in Corner Brook and things like that. But it doesn't happen often, but in unique circumstances it does. So that's the kind of things, I guess, that's under consideration right now, and see where the level of support and so on to move forward to make decision now, or do we go through the full process? And the full process could anywhere be from 4 to 8 months, I guess, in terms of the decision around to build, planning, construction, the engineering. Then you evaluate the costs, and then you evaluate the impact on ratepayers once the project is done. So
yeah, two distinct things inside there is cost, the burden to the ratepayer. When the power is on, we all think about cost. When the power goes off, we talk about reliability and how robust the system would be. Even your own consultant you hired, Manitoba Hydro International, they pointed out some of the hurdles or risks associated with the transmission down through the long-range mountains, and whether or not the ratio of 1 to 50, 1 to 150, or 1 to 500 so far as years of reliability was being considered appropriately by Nalcor. They've chosen the middle ground, but of course that brings up a huge reliability question. They also stated in the report that the outages would be extensive, maybe up to 30 days before power could be restored when relying on Muskrat Falls. Is it time to look at that, have a conversation about that, maybe revisit whether or not we're on the right track so far as the reliability of that 1,400-kilometer transmission line is?
Well, a couple of things on that, Patty. First, I guess, and all the information that have been provided, that this particular Labrador Island link is going to be extremely robust and obviously considerate of the challenges, I guess, particularly the winter challenges. So I think that's all been calculated into what's being built. But so that we clarify, this is totally different from what we're looking at and discussing here.
Yeah, I know.
That's the Labrador Island link. In terms of the third line into Labrador, that would run from Churchill Falls into Labrador West. But I think you raised a point, and I guess it kind of ties into a lot of discussion that went on last week as well, that, when we have these kinds of discussions about reliability, about the size of the lines, the quality, and all of that stuff, the reality is it has to be paid for. And whether it's through Newfoundland Hydro and certainly through the Public Utilities Board as a regulator, all of that has to be taken into consideration and balancing, one, in terms of the integrity of your system, but at the same time, having a respect for the ratepayers, because nobody wants their bills to go up. And every time there is a rate application, an increase, and it upsets people, it's difficult on people, and it's understandable. So, those involved with Newfoundland Hydro in terms of application process, and certainly in terms of the PUB around the evaluation and cost and impact on ratepayers, you had to find that balance. And, we want it reliable, but obviously we all want our light bills to be as low as possible. So in this particular case, when we talk about the third line in the Labrador, these are the kinds of things. I think we understand that there's a need for power, and the company in this particular case has put their money on the table. They want this to move forward now. There's tremendous interest in Labrador to get it moved forward, but it's important that we know where we stand with the process, and certainly particularly around the people that's involved here and speaking out of exactly where they stand with the process. So that's the piece we're at right now, Patty.
When it comes to the Muskrat Falls issue and reliability and all those things, whether or not we pay for construction of transmission to Lab West, there's one remaining issue in the courts which would directly impact how much power we can generate at Muskrat Falls. Nalcor and the government has legal opinions that says the water management agreement is tight and valid. We'll have access to all the water we need. How much of a role does the ongoing water management court battle play in whether or not we start to pay for, give the green light to building transmission? Because if we don't have the power we thought we would get, the building transmission might have transmission lines with no power to flow on it. So what role does that play?
To my knowledge, it doesn't play any role, because it's the water management rights have been approved and decided, and the PUB has been a part of that process as well. But the particular challenge that's in the courts right now is over the 69 power contract that has to be changed come 2014. And the contract's already been done as of 1969, I guess, but under the particular new contract that's to come in place, the flow of power to Quebec Hydro changes in terms of, I think previously, and again, I can be corrected here, Patty, but I think previously it was all about peaks and valleys, that they could take their power at different times, whereas now under the new contract they have to take a steady stream all the time.
That's
and
right.
They're challenging that, I guess, in terms of their own operations. So from our perspective, it's not about the water management rights that's ironclad, and we're in good shape with that.
Yeah, and that has two distinct different issues, is the flow of power from Muskrat Falls and or the Upper Churchill so far as the WMA is concerned. Yeah. One last question on another issue in your portfolio, and then I'll let you go, sir. This is the ongoing issue and controversy about the Manolis L and the leak or the seepage of oil that's come to the surface. We've already seen and identified oil-covered ducts and whatnot. This is not necessarily something that your department can take the reins on and make sure that whatever repair is done, or if that ship is brought to the surface. What's the level of conversation between you and the Coast Guard and the federal government so far as trying to rectify this? Because it can only get worse before it gets better, because it's seeping and no one can deny it. What's going on there?
Oh, Pat, I appreciate you bringing it up, because I'd hope to get a minute to talk about it. It's, obviously it's a big concern within my district. I hear from people, I talk to people all the time. And again, we're still seeing oily birds on the beaches, and so, as we know, there's been an effort here to, in the short term, address the situation. It was effective. There's two pieces that they did, a neoprene gasket as well as a funnel, I guess, that had to be put over on the second leak. The second one didn't work. They're about to address that again now. I think the work has been done, redesigned, and when the weather's suitable, the Canadian Coast Guard will go back and try and address that in the short term. But I think the level of comfort that we need, I know in our district, because it has such an impact on our economy, I guess certainly in the fishing area as well as hunting area, and certainly concerned about the impact of the oil on the beaches and so on, given that we're a significant tourism attraction area in the province. So, it's a major concern. Our comfort level, I think, is only going to be when the federal government decides that they're going to undertake that vessel up or certainly get the oil out of the vessel. And there's been a fair bit of discussion about that, Patty. The lead department for our province, the Department of Environment. I know Minister Shea spoke recently on that as well. And the Department of Fisheries are involved as well. I know when I was Minister of Fisheries, we wrote letters to the federal government, and other letters have been written. What I'm doing, Patty, this week, actually, I have a meeting already arranged with the head of the Coast Guard to get a full and detailed update as to where we are. But I'm also meeting with our federal minister, Mr. Moore, who's in town this week, and I'm going to be meeting with him to have a discussion, not only about the immediate, but I think the long term. We need the commitment from the federal government on the long term that this is going to be addressed, and I don't think the people, particularly in my district, are going to be satisfied until we get that. So having a meeting this week, and that's the message, and certainly going to be pressuring the federal government to see if they can make that commitment and give us some time frames around that.
Yeah, because this is not a matter of what we want for our own provincial good that's opposed to the national good. This is an environmental disaster waiting to happen, so we can only assume they'll have answers coming very quickly. Just pops in my head once again, Minister, there's conversation now about the end of a contract for 6 SAR techs at Cougar helicopters. That once again will fall into your purview, given us how we respond to people being transported to the offshore and whatnot. What do you know about it, and what level of concern do you have with this news?
Well, obviously it's a very sensitive and obviously extremely important issue for us in the province. I mean, Patty, for me personally, I represent a fishing district. We all know the impact search and rescue on our fishing industry and the value of it, but as well as minister responsible for oil and gas, then, we have a significant play in the offshore, and anytime there's issues raised about search and rescue as it causes concern. But I do know the information I got, the early information got this morning, actually, that the 6 SAR techs has no impact on the operations in Newfoundland or in St. John's. Okay. Contractual obligations outside the province. So that's the information I've been given. There's no reason why I guess I would disbelieve that, but I've been told that it's not impacting the St. John's operations. So certainly that's comforting as well. So.
As we chat, things popping in my mind. To your knowledge, sir, either in front of the CNLOPP or your department, are there any of the offshore oil companies, in particular Husky or Encana, is there any new application for pipeline consideration on your desk or anything you know about?
Certainly nothing on my desk, and certainly not aware of at this time. It's not to say it's not there, but I'm certainly not aware of it.
Minister Dalley, I really appreciate your input this morning, Patty, sir. Anything else before you go?
Could I just take 1 minute, Patty? We had a discussion on this, but I know there's still some concern out there about this review and discussions around last week, and I just want to reiterate my message, I guess, initially when I spoke with you, that, the Public Utilities Board have a role to play here, a legislative role, regardless of who's putting pressure to do inquiries and reviews and so on. The PUB has a role here to play. We're very supportive of that. We want them to do the review on the incident. It's important to the people of the province, and I've been clear, and the Premier's been clear that we want those questions answered. And again, it's not about blame, but it's about, for us, it's about making sure that we understand what happened. We don't want this to happen again, and we want the PUB to do that work. Our announcement of a review is totally separate of that piece of work by the PUB. It's not about preempting them. It's not about trying to cover up or anything like that. It's about the PUB doing their work, and our focus as a government is in response to the many questions from the people of the public. And even if you look back in our energy plan in 2007, we had referenced the fact that we would look at the regulatory structure in this province and how it works. So when we look at the challenges that we've had recently, it raises questions about investment, it raises questions about capital plans, around decisions around that, and all of that is something that we want to take a look at on behalf of the people of the province. And Patty, that includes the PUB. It includes Newfoundland Hydro. It includes Newfoundland Power. It will include government. It will include the electricity side of Nalcor's responsibilities. So all of that is what we'll take a look at in an independent review and develop the terms of reference around that. But in no way in no way does this impact the work that the PUB will do around the recent outages and the concerns that certainly that's been raised.
And also, as we spoke about last time, and I think you understood and agreed with, so much is going to hinge on who is appointed and the terms of reference, whether or not people will take any comfort from this independent review. I appreciate your time this morning, Minister Dalley, and we'll speak again in the future.
Thanks very much, Paddy.
All the best. Bye-bye. Derrik Dalley is the PC member for the Osler Notre Dame, and of course the Minister on Natural Resources.